to center your clay on the wheel. If you're a beginner, this probably seems like one of the most daunting tasks of throwing on the wheel, but once you get the feel for it, it actually becomes one of the most easy steps in the process. So, what you're going to do first, and you have to do this 100% of the time, take a tiny piece of clay, and even though I have a pad here from what I threw previously, I am still going to take this tiny piece of clay just to show you. If you have a bare bat, take your clay, and you make an X. It's okay if it's sloppy. This has nothing to do with how your piece will come out in the end. So you make the X, and what that's going to do is it's going to hold your clay to the wheel while you're throwing it. So if you've ever had the problem where you start to throw and then your clay goes off to the side of the bat and you don't know how to get it back, or it slides off, that's the reason why, because this is one of the most important steps to actually getting your clay stuck onto the bat. So then you're going to take your clay, you're going to see approximately where center is with your eyes, grab the clay, and slam it down. So it should be adhered by now, but to make it easier for yourself, what you can do is begin to push in with your hands and press down, and center the clay as much as possible before you even start throwing. And what this does is it makes it a lot easier for you to center your clay. It takes out a lot of the steps of trying to get it centered, and especially for beginners, this can help tremendously with trying to get your clay centered. So I'm just now going to take this part of my hand and push down from the top and just kind of shorten this little clay mound here. And you can see that this is pretty centered. It's okay if the outside is lumpy, but it looks like it's pretty centered, and that means I'm going to have to do all the less work when I actually start, so I don't have to battle and fight the clay to get it centered. So I'm going to start my wheel a little bit fast. It's okay to go fast at this step. It might seem like going slow is the best thing to do, but if you spin the wheel a little bit faster than you think you should, then it actually is easier to center because you have the advantage of the speed. And it's going to make it easier for you to cone up and cone down. So coning up and coning down is also really important, and that's what centers your clay. That's what centers your clay. Coning up and coning down is what's really going to center your clay on the bat here. So I have a sponge full of water, and I'm just going to squeeze it off over the top to make it wet. You don't necessarily have to wet your hands after you do that. And what I'm going to do is take my hands like this, and with the back of my palm here, the bottom end of my palm, I'm going to push in and pull up. And as I'm pulling up, I'm going to pull these parts of my hands in on one another as to create a cone shape. And you can see that the clay begins to come up. That's okay. And just continue to bring it up until you make a nice point. So you can see that this is pretty much centered, and a lot of the time you'll notice the clay down here at the base is not centered. That is okay. You really want this top to be centered. So if you're a beginner and you're working with any amount of clay, it might be easier to center in 2 steps. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wet my hands now, and with this part of my hand, I'm going to go from the top, supporting this cone with the middle of my palm here, and push down. And as I'm pushing down, this hand is going to guide the outer edge of the clay so it comes straight down. So here's the first step. I'm going to go down to about here, center the clay to about here. And it's always okay to interlock your fingers. That actually works to your advantage. So you can see now that this little piece of the clay here is centered. This bottom half necessarily is not centered. So I'm going to cone down a second time, and this is what's going to center your clay on your bat. Using the same process, taking this part of my palm, supporting the outside with the middle of my palm here, push down, and just guide it down. And one of the most important parts here to keeping it centered when you let go is easing off gently with your hands at the end. Don't pull your hands away really quickly, because what that's going to do is actually pull the clay in a certain direction and it's going to uncenter it. So try to just ease your hands off the clay after you push it down. And now you can see that this looks mostly centered. And before we make a hole in the center here, I wanted to make a note that, in my opinion, it's good to keep a space in between the bulk of your clay and the bat.